conduct a skincare routine?
Thank you so much. One thing I could, oily skin, they have dry skin, they have normal skin, but they don't have a skin routine.
Yes.
So I have products here. I'm going to take you through.
Yes.
We have like this product.
Yes.
We also have another product here.
Okay, this is a toner.
Yes.
You can see this is a facial wash.
At the same time, we have another product here.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically these are like a cleanser, we have a toner and a moisturizer. So these ones are a skin routine program. So when you have this, you don't have to use a soap.
Exactly.
Yeah, you do this one, you wash with your face towel, then you lather it on your face, you rinse off with lukewarm water, then you take a toner, you use with cotton wool, you don't rinse it off, then you do your moisturizer. If you're going to the sun, you can do a sunblock on top of your moisturizer. But if you're normally indoors, you only do the moisturizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing here you have some different kinds of, like I understand this is like more of also a foaming wash, and then this is activated charcoal. What is activated charcoal used for? Like, is it for oily skin, or what kind of skin is it best for?
Yes, so the activated charcoal is best for oily skin, or a skin which is prone to acne. Yes.
Is soap and water okay, like normal soap, not bar soap, because we've heard that bar soap is not the best, but just normal soap and water? Can somebody use that soap?
Yes, definitely, because we have a beauty soap.
Yes.
You can use this one. It's not the other adhesive soaps.
Yes.
But this is a beauty soap.
Yes.
You can do this one.
Okay.
Then you can do your moisturizing
so
if you don't have a routine. So this one is okay.
All right.
Yes.
So beauty soaps are not as harsh as bar soaps and other sort of soaps that you can use, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
We also have a foaming cleanser.
Yes.
You can also do this one if you don't have a skin routine.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. That is very easy to understand. Cleanse, tone, and moisturize. And if you have oily skin, you can use activated charcoal. You can use it in mask form. Am I right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
for a daily routine, you can actually just do soap and water. It is good enough to clean your skin. This has been Self-Care Tips. I am Irene Joroge.
Mimi I guess that anakuwa mimi ni mrembo na nakuwa weakness kwa wanaume.
Bebe sura baya, mwili baya, handsome nini? Wapi pesa yangu?
Cassava alipunguza pilipili.
Shida ni gani?
Wacha ujinga.
Unajiangalia na yeye. Nani anazaribu?
Nitakutumula, nitakuchapa.
Mtoto, just look at me. You're not my class. You're not even my type.
And I don't want you.
Nipelekane wapi na msichana wa night class?
Wewe naweza kuweka, naweza kwa mimi mwenye hiyo club. Usinidharau.
Uzalishaji wa viwanda huwa na manufaa mengi katika nchi mojawapo, ikiwa ni kubuni nafasi za kazi, kuchangia katika mapato ya kitaifa na kwa wafanyikazi wa viwanda.
This Big Four agenda provides young persons with multiple avenues for self-fulfillment, economic empowerment, dignified living, as well as service to Kenya.
So we're very, very excited that a country such as India has acquired syringes from Kenya.
Mimi nafikiri poa sababu sikutarajia kama naweza tengeneza hiki kiatu na mwanajeshi aifae.
Viwanda vinaibuka na vingine vinanawiri kila uchao nchini Kenya. Tazama KBC Channel 1 Ijumaa hii saa 2:30 uone manufaa na ukuzi wa viwanda nchini Kenya chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta.
from 548 deaths in 1963 to more than 3,200 deaths in the period between January and September 2021, Kenyan roads have evolved to become a major killer. What is the National Transport and Safety Authority doing to disassemble this death trap?
That road courtesy issue, right, is one of the core factors. Do we have to talk about drink and driving? You know yourself the dangers about it. High speed, you know why there's speed limits in this country. They are to protect you as a road user. So the infrastructure is being built to be the world's class standard. But we also have to take our role as a citizen in this country.
This week on Inside Government, we talk to NTSA Director General George Njau on what the authority is doing to enhance road safety here in Kenya, right here on KBC Channel 1.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email newsroom@kbc.co.ke, call 0723 892 654 or 0734 780 124.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Now, tonight we tell you more about the integration of the DRC to the EAC. We do have an exclusive interview with Equity Group MD and CEO, Dr. James Mwangi. That and much more coming up shortly after the highlights. Don't go away.
And I am elected. I am not appointed. The staff that work for CS Amina are installed in a committee to run football.
Battle brewing in Kenya's football. FKF president vows to stay put hours after being kicked out. A brighter day for Deputy President. Warm reception in Homa Bay and Migori shadows ugly scenes in Kisumu on Wednesday. And hope for the under-18 as HELB reviews policy on loans. DRC awaits a verdict to join the East African community. This in our special focus on the EAC integration. Well, for our translation today, we have Lucy Maura. And remember, we would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on KBC Channel 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and also Instagram. Moving on now, Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa is putting on a brave face, vowing to stay put after he was kicked out of office by Sport Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed. Mwendwa has poured cold water on the caretaker committee appointed Thursday morning, terming the move inconsequential. The CS disbanded FKF and appointed committee to be chaired by Justice Aaron Ringera to clean the mess, said that it has crippled the country's umbrella soccer body.
Sports Cabinet Secretary, through a press release, announced the disbandment of Football Kenya Federation (FKF) after receiving an audit report on the federation from Sports Registrar Rose Wasike.
No bank account should be opened by FKF henceforth unless authorized by the Principal Secretary, who is also the accounting officer. Within the 6-month period, the caretaker committee will be in place. And the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund not to release any funds to FKF unless and until the previous funds are fully accounted for.
The CES had earlier snapped summons from the Senate, where she was set to appear before the Social and Welfare Committee chaired by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja. However, FKF President Nick Mwendwa has rejected the committee and termed the decision as political and illegal.
And I am elected. I am not appointed. And if the minister wishes to lead football, you look at that committee, several members of her staff, the staff that work for CS Amina, are installed in a committee to run football. Staff members of our office. As I have said, it is the wish to take over football that have been driving her. I will say it openly, that's what she has wanted to do. And it's a sorry state of affairs. My job now is to protect the institution.
Mwendwa said that all football activities will continue under his regime and asked the Sports Ministry to halt plans of interfering with Kenyan football. Frederick Moki for Prime Edition.
And now to politics, where Deputy President William Ruto is promising a government that will focus on job creation should he clinch power in 2022. Ruto, who was on a last lap of his 3-day tour of Nyanza region, took his campaign to Homa Bay and Migori counties. He said his bottom-up economic model was premised on creating an equal society. He dismissed pockets of youth who attempted to disrupt his tour of Kisumu on Wednesday.
DP Ruto's visit to the Luo Nyanza region came down on a high note, having been accorded a generally friendly reception in Homa Bay and Migori counties, unlike the ugly scenes witnessed in Kisumu's Kondele suburb on Wednesday. Ruto promising to visit the region again, suggesting he is not bothered by the previous day's incidents in Kisumu.
Na kama kuna mtu anafikiria mimi nitakuja hapa Homa Bay anitoroshe, mimi sitoki. Mimi nitaenda nirudi tena. Niende nirudi tena. Niende nirudi tena. Watu tuanze kuzoeana.
While addressing crowds in Homa Bay town, Sori, Muhur Bay and Migori town, Ruto rallied area residents to support his bottom-up economic model, which he said will address youth unemployment and provide an enabling environment for small traders to thrive.
Mimi nasema, hiyo mpango ya serikali ya mwaka ujao, priority number 1, agenda number 1, katika budget ya kwanza, vile tulikuwa tumepangia ndani ya Big Four. Mimi ninasema mwaka ujao we must commit the first 100 billion Kenyan shillings in making sure these young people have opportunity to work.
Ruto made reference to his previous engagements with ODM leader Raila Odinga, saying it was time the region returned the favor.
2007 nilisimama na Agwambo mpaka akakuwa prime minister. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Nimesimama na Uhuru Kenyatta mpaka amekuwa rais. Leo nimesema nitasimama na wao mahasla. Safari hii mimi nasimama na wao mahasla mpaka yule mwenye hana kazi apate kazi kwanza.
Mimi niko na furaha kabisa, na nataka niwaambie namna hii safari ya mwaka ujao, wananchi wenzangu, mimi niko na imani kubwa tutafaulu. Mimi nataka kuhakikishia naibu rais kwamba sasa watu wa Migori, Nyanza mzima wameamua ni hustlers.
As Deputy President William Ruto concludes his 3-day tour of the Luo Nyanza region, he continued his passionate appeal for the region to return the favor, having supported the ODM leader Raila Odinga in 2007. This as the DP maintains that the bottom-up economic model is the solution to the country's economic challenges. Reporting from Migori County, I am Wycliffe Okech.
Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has directed political parties to revise their nomination regulations ahead of submission next Tuesday. In a statement, IEBC said 89 parties that had submitted their documents had not fully complied to stipulated regulations.
According to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissional Political Party Nomination Rules submitted by 89 political outfits by October 18, 2021, had fallen short of the requirements of the Elections Act 2011 and Elections Regulations 2017. All political parties had been required to submit their revised nomination rules within 14 days from the date of communication from the Commission and not later than Tuesday, November 16, 2021. IEBC maintains only those political parties that tick all the boxes will be issued with a certificate of compliance. However, nomination rules that fail to comply with the requisite regulations shall be declared void, rejected, and affected parties and shall not participate in the 2022 general elections. The statement comes a day after the Registrar of Political Parties launched an online platform where Kenyans can verify their political party membership. To access the services, you need to log in to eCitizen, select your preferred services in the details and submit, receive a system acknowledgement, and once done, a notification will be issued.
The National Assembly has approved the 2 nominees for appointment to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC. The members anonymously gave their consent to have Alfred Mtwete Mshimba and Monica Wanjiru Mwiru serve as members of the EACC. On Wednesday, some legislators raised concern over the ethnic composition of the commission, saying approving the 2 names would be going against the Constitution.
Colonel retired Alfred Mtwete Mshimba and Dr. Monica Wanjiru Mwiru are now members of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Their approval by the National Assembly Thursday was unanimous.
I put the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on its consideration of the nominees for appointment as members of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, this House approves the appointment of Colonel retired Alfred Mtwete Mshimba and Dr. Monica Wanjiru Mwiru as members of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The development comes a day after the National Assembly members failed to approve the names of the 2 nominees for appointment to EACC following concerns of ethnic composition. The 2 have replaced Dabar Abdi Maalim and Rose Mgoi Masharia, who resigned last month. Mshimba, a former Kenya Defence Force, and Wanjiru are set to fill the 2 vacancies that had left EACC depleted and strained in its efforts to spearhead the fight against corruption. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
Now, members of the National Assembly have called for removal of the age limit in accessing government funds for higher education help. Led by Homa Bay Town MP Peter Kaluma, the MPs who met top officials of the Education Ministry said it is wrong to deny learners below 18 years access to higher education loans, curtailing their chances for joining institutions of higher learning. Higher Education Loans Board CEO Charles Ringera said the board will formulate a policy that will allow parents to sign for learners below 18 years.
What you need for underage students to apply is an administrative issue. It's a security issue. It's not a legislative issue. So don't tell us you're waiting for bills. What we want is that this loan is open to all students in spite of age, as is contemplated. Because otherwise you are punishing some students because God gave them a brain to pass exams before they attain some age. That age requirement is not in the Higher Education Loans Board Act.
The idea of this committee is to listen to the responses that have been given to the questions and make proposals. The proposals have already been made. What I expected on the side of the CEO was say, we take note and will act. But when he goes back to tell us that the portal will be open for these children until the time they get to the age, then we're not making progress.
That the underage should get loans. It is out for publication. Everything has been done by the committee. So it is up to now the help Bwana Ringera for 4.9 billion. Cass, you're here on behalf of the CS. Are you going to ring fence this money? And even if you're ring fencing the 4.9 billion with the treasury, the underage are not captured in this 4.9, right? They are not captured here, the underage. So you will need more money to also capture the underage, even as you do the supplementary, the coming supplementary, and the annual budget that will be done early next year.
Now to scales of justice, where the High Court in Embu has handed Michael Mudhini Mutunga a 30-year-old sentence for the murder of Catholic priest Father Michael Maingi in 2019. Mudhini admitted to killing Father Mainga, a priest based in Dada Parish in Machakos County, on October 8, 2019. The priest's body was discovered a week later in a shallow grave at the banks of River Mashamba in Bere Sub-County, Embu County.
26-year-old Michael Mudhini Mutunga appeared before Lady Justice Lucy Njuguna at the Embu High Court together with his co-accused. He confessed to killing 43-year-old Catholic priest Father Michael Maingi 2 years ago. In handing him 30 years in jail, Judge Njuguna noted that there was no justification for committing the heinous crime.
There was no justification whatsoever for committing the offense, and even assuming that the deceased was sodomized as he alleged, he ought to have used the legal avenues open to him so that justice could be served, but he decided to take the law into his own hands.
He said the accused was not remorseful and continued benefiting from the deceased's property, including money and his vehicle.
I find that the circumstances under which this offense was committed calls for a severe and deterrent sentence. I sentence the first accused person to serve 30 years in prison.
In his mitigation, Mudhini said he killed the priest who was his mentor after he sexually assaulted him. His co-accused Kavinya Mwangangi and Solomon Mutava will have their case mentioned on 17th of November this year. The deceased family member said justice had been served, though they had lost a diligent and dependable man who had left a big gap in his ministry.
I feel justice has been served for the last 2 years since the case started to date. It's not a long time, and we appreciate that the judiciary did not take long to make the point of judgment or the sentence given to him.
This is a matter which has lagged in the court for quite a while, and the decision, we respect the decision of the court. We respect it and we honor it. We have no problem with that.
For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troinjue.
Now, Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate stands at 1.4% after 94 people tested positive from a sample size of 6,765 in the last 24 hours. Total confirmed positive cases are now 254,151. Cumulative tests conducted so far are 2.7 million. The Ministry of Health says the death toll has risen to 5,315 after one death was reported from facility record audits conducted in the month of November 2021. As of November 10th, 2021, a total of 5.8 million have been vaccinated across the country. Globally, data from the Johns Hopkins University shows more than 251.5 million people have been infected. Over 5 million have died. Now, moving on now, the government, through the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, will mobilize 38 billion shillings in the next 5 years to boost training in the water sector. The money will be channeled through the Kenya Water Institute. Details in our county news roundup.
Speaking during the launch of the strategic plan for the 2021-2026 in Nairobi, Water Secretary Engineer Samuel Alima also revealed that they have a new water policy, including 3 core regulations passed by Parliament that will help align the sector to the Constitution. Kenya Water Institute is in the meantime building capacities for all counties to provide clean, safe drinking water for residents.
We don't have skilled, well-trained capital in our counties in the water sector. So this is the role of KEWI. This is the role of Kenya Water Institute to ensure that all the counties, because they are supposed to provide water services as per the Constitution, all the counties have built capacity over time. That's what KEWI will do, build capacity for the counties so that they are able to provide water services to the people of Kenya.
And the Kenya Institute of Special Education has urged parents of children with special needs to take them for early assessment in order to detect any symptom that might lead to disability. According to the director, Dr. Norman Kiogora, the government has invested heavily in state-of-art equipment which are available for use to the members of the public.
We are going to have experts speaking about disability, experts speaking about assessment, so that the world can know special disabilities can be able to live normal lives. Somebody saying that Ruth Seals said, Esther Seals said, the worst disability is people see the disability before they see the person.
Elsewhere in Kiambu County, the government, through the Department of Social Services, has embarked on a county-wide exercise of enlisting those who will benefit from cash transfer funds under the Presidential Bursaries Program. The move will enable the department have new data that will ensure rightful beneficiaries receive their dues.
It has to present themselves. There has to be a proof of life. There has to be a production of the original ID card and an issuance of the e-ticket or the introduction letter to the beneficiary, which they will be able to present to their respective banks of choice to facilitate the bank account opening.
And environmental enthusiasts in Baringo County have called upon stakeholders to actively participate in mitigating the effects of climate change. They cited a natural catastrophe which has led to unprecedented rise in water levels of Lake Baringo and Bogoria, submerging critical infrastructural facilities like schools, tourist hotels, churches and hospitals. Meanwhile, over 800 widows from Homa Bay County have benefited from a housing project courtesy of a faith-based organization in the region. Finally, the prison department has partnered with justice defenders to train inmates and warders to be paralegals. This as it emerged that in the last 1 year, over 4,000 inmates who had been represented by paralegals, who are also fellow inmates, had been set free. In the last 2 years, 4,346 inmates had been set free after appealing their cases in a move that had assisted in decongesting the correctional facilities. For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
I'm just going through some of your feedback. Remember, it's KBC Channel 1, and John Karani from Voi is asking, what do we have for Tech One? Well, Tech One will be coming after the break. We'll be telling you about a Kenyan startup that wants to use technology to ease traffic gridlock. That is coming up shortly.
Kenya Defence Forces, KDF, announces the recruitment of General Service Officers, GSO cadets, Specialist Officers, General Duty Recruits, tradesmen and women, and constables scheduled for the month of November 2021. Listen to Radio Taifa during the entire month of November 2021 for details of the recruitment process. Then grab your local newspaper, The Daily Nation, 7th of November. The Star on the 5th of November, while the Standard will have those details 14th of November and 9th of November on MyGov inside the Standard newspaper. The People's Daily on the 8th of November and 12th of November. Remember, no one can influence the recruitment process because bribery and other acts of corruption are against the law. Report any suspicious activities or characters to the nearest police station or military camp or call hotline numbers 0726419709 or 01203000599. KDF recruitment is absolutely free to all.
Uzalishaji wa viwanda huwa na manufaa mengi katika nchi mojawapo ikiwa ni kubuni nafasi za kazi, kuchangia katika mapato ya kitaifa na kuwafanyikazi wa viwanda.
This Big Four agenda provides young persons with multiple avenues for self-fulfillment, economic empowerment, dignified living, as well as service to Kenya.
So we're very, very excited that a country such as India has acquired syringes from Kenya.
Mimi nafikiri kuwa sababu sikutarajia kama anaweza tengeneza hiki kiatu na mwanajeshi aifae.
Viwanda vinaibuka na vingine vinanawiri kila uchao nchini Kenya. Tazama KBC Channel 1 Ijumaa hii saa 2:30 uone manufaa na ukuzi wa viwanda nchini Kenya chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta.
Welcome back, and now to business news. The National Assembly has passed the Sugar Bill 2019, paving the way for reforms to be carried out. Among others, the bill proposes to create the Sugar Board that will oversee operations in the subsector, including setting modalities that will guide payment of farmers for cane deliveries.
The sugar subsector is set to undergo major reforms after the National Assembly adopted the Departmental Committee on Agriculture's report on the Sugar Bill 2019. The bill, which is now awaiting to be assented into law, proposes a repeal of the Crop Act 2013 to create the Sugar Board that will be tasked with regulating the sector's value chain.
I propose a question, which is that the Sugar Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68 of 2019, be now read a third time. I put the question, which is that the Sugar Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68 of 2019, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The board will also oversee the importation of the sweetener, with importers and millers required to report on their current stocks on a daily basis. Investors willing to operate a sugar factory or a jaggery must be licensed by the board. Sugarcane levy will be reintroduced, and cash from the kitty will fund the operations of the board. To protect sugarcane farmers from unscrupulous millers, a price committee will be set up and will determine the pricing formula of cane deliveries. Payment for cane deliveries will be reached between the cane farmers and their respective millers, with sugar companies forced to compensate farmers for any delayed payments. This is the latest attempt yet by the government to institute reforms in the ailing sector. Recent plans to institute reforms, including privatization of the state-owned millers, have run into headwinds after the court halted the process. Benson Drioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Rioba, for that report. Now, Kenya has pioneered development of a genetically modified cassava variety that is drought-resistant, high-yielding, and withstands pests. The virus-resistant cassava for Africa, commonly known as Vica Plus, is resilient to both the cassava brown streak and cassava mosaic diseases, and has been fortified with zinc and iron to enhance its nutritional value. The cassava seed variety now awaits the national performance trials before it is released to farmers.
Farmers in East African region have for decades grappled with the cassava mosaic and cassava brown streak diseases, with the latter being more destructive.
The problem with this is that when you have the roots, it can look so good and so big. You carry it to the market, but inside it is totally rotten. And so they lose the food. They can't even feed the livestock. So that means actually it is total loss.
It is for this reason that a team of scientists, led by the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, back in 2012, under a project dubbed Virus-Resistant Cassava for Africa, VICA, embarked on development of a cassava seed variety that withstands these threats. Gene modification was seen as the best option.
That small piece of RNA of the virus, we inserted it into the cassava in such a way that when the virus comes, the plant realizes that there is something that we don't need. It starts cutting it. Anything that has similar information like that, it starts cutting it into pieces. And this is natural.
Nearly 10 years later, the research has borne fruit as evident in this confined field trial at Kalro Mtwapa in Kilifi County, a high-yielding cassava variety that is resilient to common diseases. The project has, however, suffered a major setback. After the National Biosafety Authority approved the variety for national performance trials, the National Environment Management Authority demanded that an environmental impact assessment test be done.
The process up to now has taken quite some time, just making sure all the tests are done, the standards are taken into consideration, the safety is taken into consideration.
If these challenges of overlapping mandates of regulatory agencies in Kenya can be resolved so that we have one-stop agency that actually does the whole process, it will be much easier and it will speed the rate at which we take materials to farmers because it is urgent.
Researchers say the timely resolution of this hurdle would pave the way for the national performance trials that will inform the commercialization of the cassava variety as early as next year.
We do the national performance trials, testing them in different sites in the nation so that we can even identify which are the best varieties for which region.
Kennedy Sir for Prime Edition.
Now, securing harvest to nuclear power in Kenya, where Kenya's first nuclear power plant is planned to go live in the year 2036. The power plant will be constructed along the Kenyan coastline due to availability of water and space. Nuclear Power Energy Agency Director of Technical Planning, Engineer Chris Ohanga, says small modular plants will generate between 50 and 270 megawatts of nuclear energy. Ohanga spoke during the ongoing 28th Engineers Conference in Mombasa.
Globally, more than 75% of all nuclear power plants are located next to rivers, lakes, or even oceans. And the reason is very simple. Nuclear power plants use so much power for cooling purposes. And that's why the coastal region in Kenya was a natural selection for Kenya's first nuclear power plant in the year 2036.
For the last 20 years, Kenya has been toying with the idea of setting up a second nuclear power plant in Africa. The original plan was to commission a 1,000 megawatts plant by December 2020, a time frame that the country missed.
As a country, we have developed a roadmap of development of a nuclear power plant in this country so that we can be able to provide reliable, adequate and cost-effective power to this nation to be able to drive the Vision 2030 agenda item.
The Nuclear Power Energy Agency, NUPEA, says Kenya has made great strides in enhancing the legal framework and setting up the necessary regulatory structures to ensure proper management of radioactive waste and spent fuel. The International Energy Agency has been working with NUPEA to ensure compliance with existing international standards on nuclear energy.
Looking at the discourse power development plan, the plan was that by the year 2036 we could have our first nuclear power plant, and as an agency that is our driving force, that we have to make sure that all the infrastructure issues are ready, so by the year 2036 we should be able to go.
In the last review in 2019, IEA outlined 15 areas that Kenya is supposed to improve on before embarking on second review slated for the year 2023. Speaking during the ongoing 28th Engineers Conference, Engineers Board of Kenya Registrar Margaret Ogaiha said the country has enough technical expertise to construct and manage a nuclear plant.
Girls and women, that this is a very fulfilling career. It is just like any other, and it's also an economic issue.
NUPEA says the Kenya nuclear power plant will have a shelf life of 100 years. O'Brien Keman for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Brian, for that detailed story. Now, moving on, hospitals and healthcare providers should step up data protection as the sector gradually integrates ICT in its operations. Players in the ICT sector say safeguarding data will protect healthcare against unfair competition and malpractices, as well as enhance doctor-patient confidentiality.
As many healthcare practitioners gradually integrate ICT in their systems, players are calling healthcare providers to step up data protection activities. ICT health service providers say data protection is important in protecting patients' personal information that is prone to misuse by online fraudsters.
Information that we provide protects the owner of this data and protects the handling of this data securely, so that it's only used for the intended purposes.
Safeguarding of health data is backed to reduce cases of malpractice and unfair competition among healthcare providers, especially pharmaceuticals.
That organizations will be very careful about is to ensure that that data is well secured, well protected. We have platforms that enable that. We have security systems that can be able to ensure that that data is well protected, well masked, so that not everybody can be able to access that data and use it for whatever reason.
However, healthcare providers have been encouraged to share crucial data that can inform policies and help the sector open up for more investments.
Actually, healthcare technology is very important across the board, from the start of the patient up to the tail end.
Open data is earmarked to reduce the cost of healthcare in the country by mapping out subsectors with funding gaps to guide informed funding in the healthcare value chain.
Tapping into that data is the one that will tell you what kind of services, the level of services, the cost of the services, and the quality even of the resources that are used, whether it be nurses, whether it be clinical officers, whether it be doctors.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now to Tech One, where the endemic problem of a traffic jam, especially in urban centers, has seen innovators come up with a technological solution that collects data and traffic engineering in a bid to ease gridlocks. Tonight on Tech One, we take a look at the work of Sona Afrique, a Kenyan startup that is deploying an adaptive traffic management system in solving traffic jam.
If you have lived around or within the Nairobi metropolitan area, you're among residents who Nairobi Metropolitan Area Transport Authority says lost 100 billion shillings to traffic jams. For a long time, various solutions have been tried in a bid to ease the pressure. Sona Afrique, a startup incubated at Accra Innovation Hub, started operations in October 2018 with the idea of intelligent traffic data that uses geomapping and real-time data capturing capabilities as part of a technological solution to address traffic jams.
Data collection is an integral part of our innovation journey. We rely on data, models, and proper analysis before recommending any possible solutions for any parking deployment. That is what makes us different.
Parking is part of the problem identified to be causing traffic in urban centers, with drivers agonizing over long waits when scouting for a parking space. The system is embedded in one of the sub-modules of the adaptive traffic system as a smart parking management module. Here is how it works. Satellites map out a parking area with a set entry and exit points, assisting the user achieve a bird's eye view of all the available parking slots. Thereafter, the number plate recognition system captures the vehicle details, including its number plate at the entry. The vehicle is then let into the parking area. At the exit point, the vehicle is then let out of the parking space and exited from the system, once the parking fee is cleared through payment options.
Available parking slots can also be adjusted accordingly and have this data displayed at the entry points. Our simulation tool can model various parking situations and guide in policy formulation.
Sonafrique now hopes to solve more Kenyan engineering problems using homegrown technological solutions, especially in the transport and logistics sector. Alanauko, Take One.
Indeed, necessity is the mother of invention. Now, businesses are seeking to link local industries in their foreign counterparts and advance technological transfer through exhibitions, even as local manufacturing industry tries to emerge from COVID-19 woes. Small businesses are angling themselves for Kenya International Industrial Expo, which they hope will give them an opportunity to showcase their wares and link up with potential overseas buyers. Here are the details of this and other stories in our corporate briefs.
Afripeak, in conjunction with the Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry and Kenya Investment Authority, say the two-day Kenya International Industrial Expo, to be held in Nairobi, is aligned with the government's Big Four agenda of manufacturing. The exhibition will focus on industrialization, construction machinery, hardware and tools, solar, auto parts, chemical products and medical equipment.
This year in our exhibition we have other Kenya pavilion. Our new decision, because we think as an international exhibition, we stand in this country, we have the responsibility to also bring up the local industries.
We grow our domestic investors, that is the SMEs, and so that they can match with the foreign investors, because foreign investors cannot come and can start doing business on their own. There, we want to we actually talking about creation of partnership.
Meanwhile, Faulu Microfinance Bank has a 31% growth in its bancassurance sales to 327 million shillings, powered by successful automation of its insurance services. The bank shrugged off a tough operating environment due to the coronavirus pandemic to record increased uptake of insurance products through its bancassurance unit. Finally, the Chandaria Foundation, together with Mabati Rolling Mills and Safari Building Systems, have commissioned construction of a training workshop at the Langata Women's Prison. The new workshop will support the prison's new established entrepreneurship and vocational training to equip the inmates with skills that they can rely on once released.
So we'll see how we can explore this and having in maybe 5 or 10 more in the coming year. And we'll have to work in administrative aspect to work out how we can do this in the coming year.
The main training offered at the workshop is baking and tailoring.
From 548 days in 1963 to more than 3,200 days in the period between January and September 2021, Kenyan roads have evolved to become a major killer. What is the National Transport and Safety Authority doing to disassemble this death trap?
That road courtesy issue, right, is one of the core factors. Do we have to talk about drink and driving? You know yourself the dangers about it. High speed, you know why there's speed limits in this country. They are to protect you as a road user. So the infrastructure is being built to be the world-class standard. But we also have to take our role as a citizen in this country.
This week on Inside Government, we talk to NTSA Director General George Njau on what the authority is doing to enhance road safety here in Kenya, right here on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi I guess that anakuwa mimi ni mrembo na nakuwa weakness kwa wanaume.
Bebe sura baya, mwili baya, handsome nini? Wapi pesa yangu?
Tafadhali punguza pilipili.
Shida ni gani?
Wacha ujinga.
Unajiangalia na yeye. Nani anazaribu?
Nitakutumula, nitakuchapa. Mtoto, just look at me. You're not my class. You're not even my type.
And I don't want you.
Nipelekane wapi na msichana wa night class?
Wewe naweza kuweka, naweza kwa mimi mwenye hiyo club. Usinidharau.
We are here to create a safe space for men and a safe space for women to come and interact with men so they can learn a bit more about us.
I always say that privilege is the opportunity to fail. And that's what I want to give my kids. Like the opportunity, you can fail 100 times. I'm here, like it's fine. And I think what everyone strives for is that opportunity to be waking up every morning, doing something they love, going to bed, feeling fulfilled, and having a loving environment. I think that's the essence.
Welcome back. Now, construction of roads, schools and health facilities, as well as factories to produce consumer goods are some of the business opportunities in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is according to Equity Group CEO James Mwangi, who is working with the governments of Kenya and DRC in organizing a 15-day trade mission for 200 Kenyan businesses to the Central African nation. Mwangi says huge revenue receipts, also exports and minerals, and a population of 100 million people would see DRC power the economic growth on EAC to 10% annually on average if it joins the trading bloc. The Regional Council of Ministers are expected to deliver the final verdict on DRC's bid to join the EAC in 3 weeks. I had a conversation with the Equity Group CEO about this and more.
Thank you so much, Dr. James Mwangi, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let me take you to DRC. There's a lot of excitement with Equity Bank and the acquisitions also in DRC. What potential did Equity see in DRC?
We entered DRC 2005 when we acquired ProCredit. And then 2020 we acquired BCDC, the oldest bank, which is 113 years old.
And the second largest.
And combining the two has put us on the path of being the largest bank in DRC. We saw a huge opportunity in DRC on account of the population of the country, nearly 100 million people, a youthful population, but a country with very poor access to financial services. When we went to DRC, only 4% of the population had bank accounts, and that reminded me of Kenya in the early 90s. When I joined Equity, only 4% of Kenyans had bank accounts. So that is the huge opportunity we saw of providing Congolese with access to financial services. The last opportunity we saw is the endowment of DRC in terms of natural resources. Today, the world will not succeed in clean energy, particularly the electric cars, without DRC, because it produces 70% of the world cobalt and almost 50% of the world copper. So for electrical car industry to succeed, it will require DRC. DRC is the second largest holder of rare earth. So when it comes to technology platforms, particularly the mobile phone, DRC is required to provide the resources. And we also saw the potential in DRC generating hydropower and feeding the African continent. So we wanted to be part of the pioneers in funding DRC so that it can realize its potential.
What are some of the key sectors, apart from banking that you've mentioned, that could be of interest for investors?
DRC has the highest arable land, not just in Africa, but maybe anywhere in the world. So agriculture is a very huge opportunity. DRC has the second largest equatorial forest on earth. Again, the timber industry would be a huge opportunity for investors. But DRC, with a population of 100 million people, gives a huge opportunity for local and regional supply chains, particularly in manufacturing. Fast-moving consumer goods. DRC would be a very good place for anybody to set. And then lastly is a manufacturing opportunity. When you have 100 million people, whether you are manufacturing steel, whether you are manufacturing iron sheets, all those have that huge market. And DRC, it here borders with 11 countries, so it will be an appropriate country to invest in for cross-border trade. And lastly, it's in the mining sector. Yes. We can't underestimate the opportunity that there is to unlock the massive natural resources DRC is endowed with. And there's also a huge opportunity of building infrastructure. Yes. DRC is as large as Western Europe, minus the infrastructure of Western Europe.
One of the issues that comes up when investors are talking about DRC is security because of the civil strife over the years. What has, since you've now been on the ground, what has been your experience?
DRC suffers from negative publicity. I would call them media stories that has painted DRC, and DRC has not been in a position to respond to clear that image. The gap between perception and reality in DRC is largest. It's where Kenya was again in the 1990s. The biggest challenge in DRC is what I would see the opportunity of building infrastructure. DRC is behind in infrastructure. DRC is behind in social services, schools, and health. And those are things. We at Equity Bank are already taking equity here to DRC so as to start exporting our doctors in DRC. That is a huge opportunity. Yes. I believe in some of the entrepreneurs we are going with during the mission to DRC as infrastructure development, road construction. I hope Kenya will also be joining us because that is the biggest opportunity. Yet, DRC with stability has the ability to pay for its services because of its huge revenue from natural resources. Most of the global commodities that DRC exports have doubled in prices in the last 12 months. Yes. And so that excess cash is available to be used to transform the country. We have a very accountable government that has focused on governance and ruthlessly dealt with the corruption scourge in DRC. Yes. And so it is giving us hope that things will be much, much better. Yes. However, like any other country, DRC has its own challenges, but it's not challenges that would deter an investor or a trader engaging with DRC. We have been there for 7 years. We are one of the largest employers in the country other than the mining industry, and we haven't had an incident for the 7 years that we have been there with any of our 1,200 employees.
The president also has been very keen on joining the EAC, and we have seen the verification going on. What advantage will that bring to the member states? And I'm asking member states because Equity Bank is in all the member states of the EAC. What advantage will DRC inclusion bring?
It will almost increase the population of East African community by 65%. So an increase of population of 65 is very significant. DRC exports mineral resources, but imports almost everything else. So it can choose on joining East African community to redirect its supply chains from being global supply chains to local and regional supply chains. And that would lift East Africa by having an increased market of 100 million people. That is the power DRC would have. DRC, because of its natural resources, particularly water, DRC could be able to provide the East African community with very cheap hydroelectric energy that we can't get anywhere else. That energy will be clean and renewable energy, and that will be a game changer for this entire region. DRC has gravitas over the world because of its commodities, copper, cobalt, gold, name it, rare earth. No country maybe in the world can beat DRC in any of those commodities. So essentially what it means is that the voice of East Africa as a region, the possibility of the region growing very, very rapidly to hit a 10% GDP growth rate can easily be realized because of the presence of DRC. And lastly is to make the trade routes from Mombasa to Eastern Congo, Kisangani, and join River Congo to Kinshasa, the one from Dar es Salaam through Lubumbashi. All those will then become open without barriers to trade because of free movement of goods and services within the region.
Last week there was an announcement, the government and also the bank announcing a trade mission in DRC from the end of November. Are we around 200 Kenyans, investors are expected to go? Being that Equity Bank is in several also EAC countries, are we also going to have investors from those countries? And maybe if you could also give us details of the trade mission.
His Excellency President Uhuru visited DRC in April, and Equity took advantage of that visit to enhance economic diplomacy when the President came to open our headquarters in DRC. During that occasion, the President challenged us as a private sector to lead uniting and creating one Africa and one people. And on that occasion, I assured the President I will be able to organize within the year to facilitate 200 Kenyan business people to visit DRC and strengthen a people-to-people relationship and take advantage of a bilateral agreement the President signed on that day of trade and investment and take advantage of it. Two protocols were signed on that day between Kenya Airways and Congo Airlines. And since then, we have seen Kenya Airways deploy 2 of its airplanes in the DRC. We have seen the government to facilitate trade open 2 additional trade consulars, one at Lubumbashi and the other one in Goma, to facilitate trade. And it's on that basis then I thought we should then expose our Kenyan entrepreneurs to this massive market. We've made well. When we bought ProCredit, it was only 15 billion shillings. When we signed BCDC, it was 8 billion. That total was 95 billion. Since then, we have grown to a 400 billion balance sheet, 60% of the size of Kenya. So essentially, it is that opportunity we want to expose to our business people. So far, about 500 of our customers have expressed interest. But because of logistics and particular availability of hotel rooms, we can't be able to take more than 200.
You've just mentioned around 500 investors who are interested in the trade mission. Of the 500, what are some of the sectors they are interested in?
It's all sectors. We have been very encouraged that even when you look at it, you see even the public sector. Hopefully we will be going with the managing director of Kenya Ports Authority, because most of the goods and logistic work for DRC is done through Mombasa Port. So he will be able to establish a relationship with his customers. So if the opportunities is not just trade, it's also professional opportunities to support the country. So we'll be doing about 4 webinars before then to prepare those on the trade mission or the opportunities in DRC, which are fast and significant. So that is what we think. There is no sector that should. Tourism, trade, culture, hospitality, mining, forestry, trade itself, import and export, all those are available. And even social arms like education and health. We don't have the private schools that we have in Kenya, yet Congolese could be able to afford. We don't have private hospitals like we have in Kenya, yet Congolese with all the money from mining could be able to afford. So that for me is a white canvas for Kenyans to go and establish all the essential services, all the essential products and sectors within the country, within a country that has lagged behind for all those years.
Thank you very much, Dr. James Mwangi, for this conversation. It has given us confidence as Kenyans about DRC and the investment opportunities. So we'll definitely be covering the trade mission.
Welcome back. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's get a little bit sporty. Now, Harambee Stars were held to a 1-1 draw by Uganda Cranes in the 2022 World Cup qualifier match played at the St. Mary's Stadium in Kitende. Michael Olunga. Former Harambee Stars and Luton Town FC player Taiwo Atieno has been appointed commercial director of the Kenya Premier League. This decision was made by the directors of the league on 2nd of this month. Taiwo, who retired in 2013, has played professional football for 15 years in England and in the USA. The commercial director's main role will be to raise investment for construction of new youth training and development facilities and assist KPL and member clubs in establishing funding. Taiwo also looks to implement KPL Communities strategy, which will focus on using the reach and appeal of the KPL and members club to inspire children and young people between the age of 5 to 25 to realize their potential.
Well, typically a young person starts playing, they can start from 5. In England, they start from 5. Upwards. So I think in Kenya we'll be looking at everything underneath the ages of 21, between 5 and 21, but obviously making sure that whatever we do, there's a phased approach to it. We're not just going to start trying to coach 5-year-olds. We want to make sure that whatever we do is going to be feasible for the counties that we're in, has a short, medium, long-term business plan.
The main focus is now to the club management. You know, the clubs have basically not achieved the goals that they intend to have. Develop players, be able to sell these players abroad. So we want to put a focus on the clubs that are members of KPL.
And that's all we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. I will see you tomorrow on Easy Friday for more sports news. Do have yourself a peaceful night. But I do hand you back to Cynthia Nyamai.
Thank you, Karen. Well, that's it for News Tonight. Remember, if you would like to get more details on some of the stories that we've had today, you can have a look at the KBC website and also send us your feedback on KBC Channel 1. From the news desk and everyone here, have a good night.